Shonen Jump is, I believe, everyone's introduction to anime. Series like the Big Three, Dragon Ball, or even stuff like JJK, My Hero Academia, and just so much more. The magazine holds a ton of new manga ready to dominate the new generation of anime. And what's amazing is that it's from all kinds of genres, and of course, including horror. Stuff like Death Note, The Promised Neverland, Tokyo Ghoul, and now the latest horror series that's dominating the shonen world right now, Centuria. Released back in April of 2024, Centuria is a mix of action-adventure, dark fantasy with a ton of gore and horrific events. This series was even praised by the mangaka of Dandaran. So today, we're gonna go check out the first 3 volumes of this series and see just how good it is. But before we start this video, I just want to announce that we are streaming every single Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll play some horror games, read some fan suggestions, watch some really scary videos, and more. So come join us every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, but without further ado, let's get on with the video. The series begins on a ship carrying 100 slaves as cargo. The navigator asks the captain if they should really sail through the Alloyed Zone, an area notorious for sinking ships due to cursed waters and a mythical beast. Despite the danger, the captain insists on the route because it's ideal for avoiding detection. The crew report a stowaway on board, and the boy is brought before the captain, tied up and surrounded by crewmen pointing spears at him. The captain orders the boy to be killed and thrown overboard, but the slaves protest. The captain argues that he only brought enough food for the crew and the 100 slaves, leaving no room for extras. However, a pregnant woman offers to share her portion, and some of the men join in, volunteering to split their rations. Reluctantly, the captain allows the boy to stay, assigning him the title of Slave Number 101. Later, the pregnant woman asks the boy why he snuck onto the ship. He explains that he wants to earn a living and buy his freedom. The boy then asks why she saved him. She responds that slaves value compassion, something that he struggles to understand. She tells him that helping out others, even for no reward, allows them to maintain their pride as human beings. She shows him a knife that her husband gave her, and the boy offers to polish it. The boy shares his past. His mother sold him to a blacksmith who would burn him if he made any mistakes. Eventually, he killed the blacksmith by cracking his skull to escape. He confesses that no one, not even his own mother, has ever shown him compassion. The woman introduces herself as Mira, and the boy reveals his name is Julian. That night, Julian asks Mira when her baby is due. She says that she hopes to give birth upon reaching the new continent. Julian feels the baby kick, and Mira tells him that she would suffer for the rest of her life to ensure that child's safety. Julian, unable to fully grasp her words, feels a strange sense of unease. Mira hugs him, reassuring him that love and kindness exist even in a world like theirs. On another sleepless night, Mira opens up to Julian. She admits that she doesn't feel worthy of being called a good mother. She once had a son Julian's age who died protecting her and her unborn child from slave traders. Mira calls herself a failure but vows to ensure her baby is born safely. Julian then hugs her, assuring her that the baby will find happiness in this world. After a day of hard labor, Mira calls Julian over to marvel at the star-filled night sky. One stormy night though, the captain orders the slaves to be brought on deck to be killed, reasoning that their deaths could be passed off as an accident, allowing him to profit from insurance claims. The crew begins slaughtering the slaves, but the slaves protect Mira and Julian. When the captain orders Mira and Julian to be killed, something extraordinary happens. The raindrops suddenly freeze mid-air, and tentacles sprout from behind Mira and Julian, forming into a humanoid creature. The being asks,
"Do you seek my blessing? 1. You must sacrifice a large number of souls. 2. You must sacrifice a pure love. I shall grant my blessing to the one who satisfies both these conditions. One shall die, while the other shall be blessed and obtain great power."
Julian tries to ask questions, but the creature grows impatient, saying they must make their choice. Julian attempts to sacrifice himself, but Mira begins cutting open her stomach, urging Julian to take care of her baby, naming her child Diana. Mira places the baby in Julian's arms before offering herself to the creature. The creature then asks Julian to state his wish. With tears in his eyes, Julian declares, "I want proof that everyone's lives, that Mira's life, wasn't a waste." The captain orders the crew to kill Julian, but the boy suddenly creates a massive smokescreen and charges at them with newfound markings around his eyes. The creature bestows upon him the life force of 100 slaves, granting him immense power, speed, endurance, and reflexes. Julian annihilates the crew, even surviving a spear to the neck, as the lives of 100 souls now sustain him. The creature destroys the ship, leaving Julian and Diana on a lifeboat. It assures Julian that the sea will no longer turn its wrath upon him. As they drift away, Julian reflects that he has never possessed anything truly valuable until now. After some time, the lifeboat reaches a shipwreck. The sea then turns black, and monstrous sea creatures emerge, growing envious of Julian. They call him a lowly landwalker, undeserving of her blessings. Despite being ordered not to harm him, they vow to kill him. One of the creatures begin climbing onto the boat. Julian leaps from the lifeboat onto the shipwreck, but he's quickly surrounded as the creatures of the sea begin eating away at the bottom of the ship. Julian places Diana safely on the ship and grabs a metal spear before jumping into the ocean to face a massive leviathan. The leviathan stabs him repeatedly with its needle-sharp tentacles, which inject poison that paralyzes his body. Mocking him, the leviathan reveals its knowledge of Julian's 100 lives. It drags him to the ocean floor, intending to make him suffer. The creature taunts Julian, telling him that he will never be able to care for Diana, and that it would be better to die and reunite with Mira. A flashback shows Julian's mother selling him for a handful of silver coins, not even looking back as she left him behind. He recalls the near-death experiences he's endured, but also Mira's warmth. In his mind, he sees Mira with her arms outstretched, calling to him. Suddenly, Julian hears Diana crying. Snapping him out of his hallucinations, Julian releases a smokescreen and resumes the fight with the Leviathan. With renewed determination, he slices through the creature's body, emerging straight out of its mouth. He swims to the surface only to find an army of sea creatures ready to attack. Refusing to give up, he fights them all and emerges victorious. Taking the lifeboat once more, Julian eventually reaches the shore. As soon as he lands, a woman appears in front of him. Behind her stands a large figure in armor, who asks what they're doing alone. Julian explains that Diana's mother died to save them. The woman and the armored figure take them in, tending to Julian's wounds and providing food, clothes, and shelter. Julian's body begins to evolve. His injuries heal quick, his resilience grows, and he discovers that he can now breathe underwater. When Julian says he has no money to pay them back, they tell him not to worry. He asks why they're helping him, and the armored figure replies that it's only natural to care for children and babies. No reason is needed. The armored figure introduces themselves as Engulfed and the woman as Titi. That night, Diana is having trouble sleeping, so Julian takes her outside for some fresh air. He notices the armored figure laying on the ground and sees a woman bathing in the lake. It's Engulfed, revealed to be a soldier serving her country. Julian and Engulfed talk by the lakeside. Julian admits that he feels unworthy of being alive in Mira's place. Engulfed comforts him, saying that family is what you make of it. It's not predetermined or set in stone. She asks what kind of family he wants to create for Diana. Julian replies that he wants to give Diana everything that he's lost: a home, food, wealth, freedom, and love. Engulfed encourages him, saying that he must fight with all of his strength in this unforgiving world. She promises to help him earn a living, but insists that they must rest first. Half a year passes and Julian and Diana settle in their new lives. One day, Diana points towards the woods, but Julian ignores it and returns to the house. Lurking in the shadows is a sinister-looking goat, watching them from a distance. Later, Julian, Engulfed, and Titi head to a village to find work for Julian. The villagers are distrustful of outsiders and consider Julian a nuisance. To prove his worth, one villager challenges Julian to clear the entrance of a collapsed mine blocked by boulders. If Julian can complete the task in a single day, then they will accept him into the village. Julian agrees and begins removing the rocks. The labor exhausts him, and the spirit of the slaves within him offer their power to help. However, Julian resolves to handle the task on his own, refusing to rely on anyone else. By sheer determination, he finishes the job. The villager, impressed, admits that he was wrong about Julian and welcomes him to the village, paying him for his work. That evening, Julian returns home and creates a gravesite for Mira. The volume ends with the group celebrating as Diana takes her first crawl. The second volume begins with Julian working for a family man named Joseph and his wife, Mary. One day, Angval and Titi bring Julian some lunch, and the group discuss whether there's anything unusual happening in the forest. Joseph explains that the continent is composed of 8 parts woods, primarily used for just hunting and firewood. However, he admits that no one truly knows what lies within the forest depths. His father had warned him as a child that the depths of the forest were a sacred domain for gods and beings beyond human comprehension. Joseph suggests that they speak directly with his father. Although his mind may be muddled with age, he promises to arrange a meeting soon. Julian asks Angval why she is investigating the forest. She replies that the king himself requested the investigation. It is her duty to see it through. The king has ruled over the country for 100 years, protecting it with mysterious godlike powers. The citizens call him the Supreme Lord. Recently, one of his closest allies prophesied his death, foretelling that he must seek and destroy a great calamity. Should he fail, he will be the one destroyed, and the calamity is set to emerge from the forest. Angval reveals that when she was young, the king saved her and her family, and she has been forever in debt to him. That is why she became a soldier. She also mentions that she is not the only one searching. Numerous soldiers and scholars are investigating different parts of the forest. When Angval and Joseph's father speak, the old man shares stories of fairies, monsters, and evil spirits dwelling in the forest depths. However, he cannot confirm if the tales are true. The next day, Joseph will go hunting and promises to inform Angval if anything unusual happens. That night, Julian holds Diana in his arms as she once again points towards the forest. Though he ignores it, he begins questioning whether something might truly be out there. The following day, the hunting group returns in a panic, reporting that Joseph has been captured by something in the forest. Angval and Joseph's father head out to investigate the forest depths. Julian asks to join, but she refuses to let him. Despite this, Julian secretly follows them. As they journey deeper into the forest, Angval and Joseph's father discover a giant withered tree with corpses hanging from its branches. They also find Joseph lying on the ground near the tree. When Joseph's father moves closer, Joseph warns him to stay back, that it's a trap. Suddenly, a gigantic multi-headed fox charges out of the tree. The fox declares that neither Angval nor Joseph's father is the blessed child of the sea, and claims it only needs one bait. It vows to kill the rest of them. The fox mocks Joseph's father, revealing that the corpses hanging from the tree were his former friends, who had pleaded for their lives before being killed. Joseph's father prepares to fight, but the fox attacks first. Angval manages to pull them out of harm's way just in time, though she is cut across the face. Joseph's father fires at the fox as they retreat, using herbs to mask their scent. They devise a plan to use Angval's blood as bait since the fox has no eyes and relies solely on its sense of smell. The fox charges through the woods, swiping all 3 of them aside. Joseph grabs the bait and lures the fox to a swampy wasteland. The fox becomes stuck in a bottomless swamp and struggles to pull itself free. Joseph's father shoots off one of the fox's arms, causing it to sink into the swamp. However, just as the fox vanishes, a wooden humanoid creature leaps out of its mouth and lands behind Joseph. The creature attempts to strike, but Angval takes the blow to protect him. Before the creature can kill Angval, Julian arrives and kicks it out of the way. The creature accuses Julian of being an intruder in the forest, declaring that beings of the sea have no right to invade its sacred domain. It vows to kill both Julian and Diana. A fierce battle ensues between Julian and the creature. The creature is thrown into a tree and uses its ability to travel through the woods, appearing out of another tree next to Julian. The fight continues as the creature hurls thorns at the group. Julian shields everyone and launches the creature into the air, destroying it mid-flight with a powerful punch. As the creature dissolves, it curses them and calls upon the forest's other inhabitants to kill them. Julian urges the group to flee as massive creatures emerge from the forest. The creatures stop chasing them as soon as they cross the forest's boundary. Suddenly, a second humanoid forest creature appears and slices Julian into pieces. However, Julian realizes that it's just an illusion, a power on the same level as the sea monster. The creature fades away and the group makes it back to the village safely. A doctor named Ravina patches everyone up. While Angval rests, Titi stands by her side and tells Julian about her past. She shares that her hometown was destroyed during a border conflict, and her parents were murdered. Angval raised her as a loving older sister, and she thanks Julian for saving her. Julian, however, blames himself for the attack, and decides that he should leave the village to prevent further harm. Angval wakes up, reassuring him that as long as he avoids the forest, the villagers will remain safe. She emphasizes that they are a family, and they should face their problems together. Despite this, Julian insists on moving to a home by the sea. Angval and Titi agreed to move with him though. With help from the villagers, they select a location and they build a house together. A year passes by since Diana's birth, and their new home is complete. Meanwhile, in the capital, the Supreme Lord receives a message from Angval about her encounter with a supernatural being in the forest. The Lord orders his ally to investigate, but when she refuses, citing a lack of battle experience, the Lord sends a warrior named Arcos. At the western border, Arcos sits alone while an army of 500 men prepare for battle. With his water manipulation powers, Arcos single-handedly and effortlessly slaughters the entire army, expressing boredom as he does so, and then readies himself to go to the southern forest. In the village, Angval welcomes the Supreme Lord's aide, Elstree, who has come to investigate the forest incident and identify the potential cause of the king's death by laying her eyes upon it. As the group prepares for Diana's first birthday, Titi suggests celebrating Julian's birthday as well, since he doesn't know his own birthday. During the interview, Elstree questions the witnesses, including Joseph and his father. When Julian enters the room with Diana though, Elstree is overwhelmed by a dark, all-consuming presence. She sees a sinister octopus creature accompanied by a goat. In horror, Elstree realizes that she has misinterpreted the prophecy and screams, "It's you, harbinger of the king's downfall, the darkness that will engulf the world in flames. You are the one that will bring night upon the land, the sworn enemy of this country." Angval defends Julian, insisting that he would never harm the king. However, Elstree clarifies that Julian is not the true threat. It's the baby in his arms. Elstree declares that Diana possesses an ancient and destructive soul, destined to spread death simply by just existing. She proclaims that the baby must die now that she's young, and the volume ends with Elstree ordering Angval to kill Diana at once. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community? But back to the video. The third volume begins with a flashback of Angval meeting the Supreme Lord shortly after rescuing Titi. She had been offered a position in the King's Guard, but she refused, wanting to instead take care of Titi. The Supreme Lord stood and approached her, telling her that the southern forest will be a safe place to build a home and raise the child. Angval thanked him, vowing to lay down her life for the sake of the Lord, no matter what. In the present, Angval is ordered by Elstree to kill Diana, claiming her will reflects that of the king. Angval hesitates, believing Elstree is wrong, but Elstree insists and offers to show her a vision. Placing her hand on Angval's head, Elstree reveals an apocalyptic scene. The capital consumed by flames and faceless warriors swarm the city. Among the destruction stands Diana, now an adult, on top of a pile of corpses. Angval is horrified, collapsing to the ground, but soon she rises and dons her helmet. She demands Julian hand over Diana. Julian flees the house, but Elstree commands her knights to stop him. Manipulating Angval's sense of duty, Elstree reinforces her hold over her. Joseph tries to intervene, but Angval draws a line, warning that anyone crossing it will be branded a traitor and executed. Angval begins attacking Julian, relentlessly beating him as he pleads for her to stop. She struggles eternally, knowing that her actions are wrong, but fears disobedience will bring harm to the villagers. Desperate, she urges Julian to fight back and kill her, believing it is the only solution. But Julian, refuses, turning off his powers, declaring that he will never use them to harm his family. Engveld then draws her sword, but before she can strike, Joseph, Mary, and other villagers cross the line, placing themselves between her and Julian. They refuse to allow her to harm him or Diana. Titi then comforts Engveld, saying that the violence has gone far enough. Furious, Elstree commands her knights to slaughter the villagers. As the knights charge, Engveld intervenes, knocking several away to protect the villagers. Joseph's father attempts to shoot Elstree but fails. Engveld then orders Julian to flee with Diana while she takes hold of the knights. As Julian and Titi escape into the forest, Engveld faces Iron Claw Guillaume, one of Estree's soldiers. Guillaume lands a brutal blow to her ribs, while she retaliates by stabbing his arm. Though wounded and bleeding, Engveld punches his mace and then headbutts him, knocking him out. She then takes Elstree hostage, but she laughs, revealing that the events unfolding are a part of the prophecy. He's arrived just in time. Behind Engveld, Arcos floats on a cushion of water, accompanied by his maid. Before Engveld can react, Arcos blasts her away with a concentrated jet of water. Using his powers, Arcos levitates the villagers and halts all the fighting. Elstree informs him of Julian's connection to the prophecy, and that he has the same supernatural powers as he does. Arcos sets off to pursue Julian. As Julian and Titi run through the forest, Julian fights off knights chasing them. Meanwhile, Engvald confronts Arcos, demanding that he stand down. She declares her unwillingness to fight the son of the Supreme Lord. However, Arcos, having inherited godlike powers from his father, dismisses her challenge. He rebukes her as a hypocrite for protecting the baby destined to kill the king that she serves. In a flashback, Engvald struggles with sleepless nights, stepping outside to get some fresh air. Suddenly, Julian, Titi, and Diana join her, offering her comfort. She reflects on how she has found something that she treasures more than her loyalty to the king. She resolves to point her blade at the Supreme Lord himself, if it means protecting her newfound family. In the present, Engvald fights Arcos but fails to land a single blow. He uses water spikes to stab her ribs and continues breaking her armor piece by piece. Though gravely injured, she refuses to yield and manages to stab him in the neck. However, Arcos hardens his blood-like armor, shattering her blade. He blasts her with water, sending her rolling down a hill. From her vantage point, Engvald sees Julian and Titi trying to escape. With Engvald wounded, Julian charges in to save her, who prepares a water spear in his hands, ready to attack. Engvald reminisces about the joy and peace that she has found in her family, cherishing the simple, happy life that they shared. She imagines a future where the four of them travel the world together. Smiling and waving to Julian one last time, she is struck by Arcos' water spear, which pierces through her body. The volume ends with Julian standing in front of Engvald's lifeless body. Overwhelmed by grief and rage, his fury ignites his powers as the climactic battle between Julian and Arcos begin. Centuria is the best shonen series that I've read right now that doesn't have an anime adaptation. The mangaka of Dandadan was so right to recommend this series. I mean, it has everything. Amazing characters, some dark fantasy lore, crazy fight scenes, and a whole bunch of mystery behind this crazy world. Family is a huge part of this series, with every character having that important dynamic. Mira and Julian, Engvald and Titi, Julian and the villagers, Mary and her daughter with Julian and Diana. I can see that this mangaka, Toru Kuromori, took some notes when he was working under Fujimoto, especially when he was working on the horror elements of this series. Definitely the best part of this series is the Lovecraftian monsters that show up, like the octopus lady and the multi-headed fox. The only problems I do have with this series are pretty minor and could easily be fixed in later chapters. For example, I wish we saw more of these Lovecraftian beings in the world, and I wish we saw more of the ocean side of the world as well. Sort of like One Piece, but in a dark fantasy environment. Also, the 100 souls thing was a huge part in the beginning of the series, noting that he only has 100 lives, and then once he got stabbed in the spear, now he has 99 lives. Or at least that's what they were hinting at. They even hinted at it with the fight with the Leviathan, saying that he knows that he has 100 souls, so he sends him straight to the ocean so he can kill him over 100 times. However, none of that is really mentioned now, especially with the fight with the wooden creature. That concept wasn't really involved in that fight scene at all. Which, to be honest, in later chapters it could be involved, especially with this new fight that's about to happen. The dark fantasy themes in this series are pretty light so far. The series is building up to that dark side of the series, especially when we reach that eventual time skip and see Diana grown up, ready to burn down the whole kingdom. There are only 38 chapters of this series and we only covered 21 in this video. So anything could happen in the next 17 extra chapters, plus this series is just getting started with, I bet, hundreds of more chapters later in the future. I absolutely love this series. I am so ready for this series to get an anime and hopefully they up the horror aspect in the future. But thank you guys for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about this series in the comments below. Remember to join the Discord server, the link will be in the description below. And if you want more horror manga videos like this one, then why not scroll down and hit that subscribe button. But I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.